What is going on, everybody? It's your boy REEZ here on the Dynasty Recall podcast. I'm joined with my man Evan here. He's the co-host of For FF's Sake. Evan, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Man, glad to join you today. Talk a little fantasy football. If I'm not talking Dynasty fantasy football, I'm listening to Dynasty fantasy football or watching something on YouTube. So just good to jump on and chat. And yeah, for FF's sake, for fantasy football's sake, is the podcast.
Right on, man. Glad to have you. You're actually the first guest on my podcast. Congratulations. I should send you a prize or something. But I see you already have the prize in the background over there, that Robert Woods Rams jersey. Tell me a little bit about that. How'd you get that one?
So this is actually a good segue because there's kind of a story with this one. So I bought the Robert Woods jersey off eBay. Great deal, by the way. Paid $45. Apparently they knew he was getting traded too. But he got traded to my team, the Tennessee Titans. So I bought the jersey as a joke, though, because of a dynasty snafu, if you will. Ian, my co-host on For FF's Sake, had Robert Woods in a league that we are both in and forgot to drop him off of his IR. And the league set a date, and he was apparently trying to make a trade. It didn't happen. Woods goes to waivers, and lo and behold, guess who had the number one waiver spot? And you know, he's kind of my friend and also arch nemesis. It's kind of that combo thing. So I bought the Woods jersey because he had a Woods jersey, and it was like, man, you got to let me have him. I already have a jersey. And I was like, well, now I do too. So I can't just give them to you back. That's not how that works. Right. I ended up trading Woods, though, as well. So now I just have this random Rams. If you need a Rams Woods jersey, actually, we can probably trade this out and make that happen.
Hey, man, I'll send you over a Derrick Henry jersey. We'll call it even.
We'll make it happen. You got to send me. It's got to be a cheaper jersey. Somebody's no longer on the team, like Julio Jones. I'm sure you can
I can do that. I'm sure I can find one. I'm sure they're all over the place.
Yeah. They're all getting shipped overseas right now. That's kind of what's happening.
So, how long you been doing podcasting for, man?
Man, I've been doing podcasting just about a year. Did a lot of guest work before that. Was guesting on some shows. I guess going back 2 years on that. A lot of radio, a lot of content creation. I did 8 years of radio and journalism. Got to do some intern work with Titans Radio, be in the press box, go in locker rooms, that fun stuff. Fun note, if you ever get your credentials once, you can pretty much get them anytime. I have not worked full-time in radio in 6 years, and I got full media credentials to the Tennessee's Music City Bowl this past year and got to go down the field for that. Got to see my team get screwed over live in person, 5 feet in my face. So that was great.
Hey, there's nothing better, man.
Just long history in broadcasting and radio, and really wanting to focus more on the podcasting, not as a career, but just as a good way to have some fun and share my love for this game with people.
Right on. So glad you love it. How long you been playing Dynasty for? What got you into Dynasty, actually?
I got invited to a Dynasty league while I was waiting on my daughter to be born 3 years ago. So I will never forget my first invite to a Dynasty league. Actually, that's kind of funny. It's like,
hey, I hope you weren't drafting that. I hope you weren't mid-draft.
The team was already drafted. I actually got invited to co-host or to co-manage a team, which I had never done. And I thought, why do you need a co-manager? Then I get into this Dynasty format and realize there's 30 players and the team had been drafted. I'm like, what have I gotten into? I was playing 5 and 6 redraft leagues a year. Had played a few keeper leagues and had heard about Dynasty, but it's kind of like, all right, so I have not got into Debbie yet. And I feel like when you play redraft and you hear about Dynasty, it's kind of like when you play Dynasty and you're hearing about Debbie. It just almost seems overwhelming, but it's really not that bad probably. I got into Dynasty and have about shifted all of my leagues over to Dynasty. Really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I'm up to about 16 Dynasty leagues and counting. Debbie scares me a little bit, but me and my man Nick, we're working on trying to get a Debbie league together. So Maybe if we can get one together, I'll shoot you the invite and we can. None of us know what we're doing.
That way, there's not one guy that's like just beating the brakes off everybody because he's played it for 10 years.
I mean, we need one just to tell us when we're messing up every 10 minutes.
The first year Dynasty mistakes are massive.
Oh yeah, detrimental.
Yeah.
It took me probably about a full year and a half to get my team back to a contender after all the screw ups I did in my original Dynasty league. But
it happens.
Yeah, you live.
I once traded Justin Jefferson and a first for DeAndre Hopkins and a second because I was making a playoff push. I did win the championship.
Yeah, that's all that matters, man. That's why we play the game.
That's it. I just acquired Jefferson back actually in the trade. If you want to chat that one up, I got Jefferson back. I traded.
Yeah, let's hear that. I'm so scared to trade Jefferson. I've got about 3 shares, but I can't bring myself to give him away.
So I bought him back. I sent Deebo Samuel and Nick Chubb to a guy that needed some depth. I felt good about it. I had plenty of depth. My other running back, I have 4 solid running backs and 102 in that league. So made the move and got my guy back. Right and wrong.
Hey, at least the owner was reasonable about giving him back to you. I've seen a lot of people just completely unreasonable about selling Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, and they're treating these guys as fantasy gods, really. And
well, what was funny about it is I'd sent him a trade. I want to say like Debo, Juju, in a second, which I knew was probably going to get shot down. I was just hoping to kind of generate some conversation. And he said, he just straight declined it. I was like, man, no counter, nothing. He goes, no. I said, well, what would it take? And he said Chubb and Debo, thinking I was going to like strongly back off. And I said, okay, I'll send it. And he sends me a message afterwards like, I still don't really like that, but I'll stick to my word. I was like, well, I'm glad.
Hey, that's a win. So speaking of selling and buying, main topic of today, some pre-draft buys and sells, man. Let's get into it. What do you got for me?
So we're going to do buying and selling before the draft. These are guys that you should buy and sell before the draft, right? Is that
correct? Correct. Okay. Draft is on Thursday, so if anybody out there has some last minute trades, because who doesn't like last minute trade offers, let's get them out there.
All right, so I'll start with my first buy. And if you've listened to any of my podcasts before, you'll know that this is no secret. I'm a stand for this guy. Number one fan site on the internet is the For FF's Sake podcast for Antonio Gibson. So Antonio Gibson, I think the reason he's a buy right now is because there's people willing to sell. There's been some top 30 running back talk of running backs visiting the Commanders. It's really only been one running back, but everybody's trying to make it a bigger deal. Just like there's quarterbacks that visit every team in the NFL every year and only 4 teams draft one. But
right.
Let's all freak out. So I guess here's my thing. Antonio Gibson coming into the NFL had never played full-time running back. His first 2 years playing full-time running back in the NFL, 1,000 yards, 44 targets, 10-plus touchdowns, each of his first 2 seasons. And the icing on the cake is the guy's still only 23.
Oh, yeah, he's got some legs. He's got some traction left.
I drafted Najee last year. Najee's going to be 24 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Gibson, meanwhile, puts up 2 great seasons with not a ton of help, if we're being honest. He's getting vultured by McKissick, which I know McKissick's back, but I just don't see McKissick going into year whatever, coming off an injury. Still, I'm going to knock on wood and pray about it, I guess.
How upset were you when McKissick came back?
As a McKissick owner and was excited that he went to Buffalo, I was devastated because I had a trade on the line to get some value from McKissick, and then he just broke my heart coming back to
Twitter was heartbroken. Twitter was devastated. It was as a fan of chaos, I loved it.
You
You gotta say.
woke up and chose violence that day. Is that where we're going? Okay.
Absolutely.
But so he's fourth in the NFL last year in touches at the age of 23.
Mhm.
He's had a couple small injuries, but when you take into the fact that first full-time playing running back, as many touches as he's getting, and it's just like little injuries, nothing major, not missing a lot of time. He's a guy that if you're playing in the 12-man league, he's been an RB1 back-to-back seasons. If you're playing in a 10-man league, he's just there on the verge.
Yep.
I think that's guy that typically you're paying multiple first for. And right now you can buy him according to Twitter and what's out there. There's guys buying him for a mid to early first. So what made me put him as a buy is I saw a guy tweeted, and he's tweeted twice now, that he has sold Antonio Gibson for 102. I would much rather have an established, know what I'm getting running back who's still only 23. We're not talking about a 25, 26-year-old who has proven that he can play with other backs in the backfield. I mean, when he got drafted, there was 3 or 4 guys ahead of him at the time.
Right.
I'm not worried about it. They talk this guy up a ton. He's getting the touches. Had they looked, I mean, they almost lost McKissick and then re-signed him to a small deal. They didn't draft a running back last year. Keep that in mind. They signed Patterson as an undrafted free agent who looked good. Why would they put more money into the position? So there's my first buy. I'm going to keep just rambling. I love Antonio Gibson.
Let me cut you off. So Gibson's got an ADP of 37 right now on Sleeper. So that puts him pretty much at the end of the 3rd round, if my math is correct. You know, I'm 29. I'm quite a few years removed from doing any math. But that's a smash, is it not?
Yeah.
At the 312, you're not taking Gibson?
100%. I'm taking him. If you're in a league with me, you're not getting him at 312. Just letting you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What are you paying to buy Gibson right now? What's it going to cost? What's the price?
If there is, so it's hard for me to come up with a price because I have them in every league that I'm in right now. But if I'm out there buying, if there's a guy panic selling because the draft's coming up and he thinks he's going to be replaced, I'm offering any mid-first back. If I actually have 102 in a league, and I'm not going to lie, I hope that Hall gets past there or I take Walker, but I would personally rather have Gibson over both of them right now, not knowing anything, right? We don't know where those guys are landing, and that's part of this discussion. I'm not saying I want Gibson over Hall in a perfect landing spot, whatever you think that spot is, or vice versa. But not knowing a landing spot, not being sure, not even knowing if he's going to fall to 102, right?
Right.
I think I want Gibson. I mean, a lot of people want Breece Hall, not to sidetrack too much, but they want him to go to Buffalo. Why? To possibly split carries with Singletary and Moss, which is a possibility. That's in the realm of his possibilities. When I know Gibson, worst case scenario, they draft a running back in the 5th round and he's in the same situation he's been the last 2 years and ends up at RB1. So I'm paying anything 102 down. I think if you can get a guy who is under 24 years old, who has RB1 consistent upside, and you're only paying 1 first, you're an idiot not to do that, whether you're a rebuilding team or if you're a rebuilding team or a contender.
All right, starting off strong, man. I like it. I like it a lot. I guess I'll go. It'll be my turn. My first buy is gonna be Kenny Gallaudet. So if you follow me, you know I'm a huge Kenny Gallaudet stan, and I will die on my hill even if I'm alone. This guy's finally getting healthy. He's finally starting to learn the offense. Last season, when he came into the offense, he had he had that injury and he didn't get to go through training camp or get his workouts in, reps in with the starters. And so he came in a little rough, but now is the time. Granted, if it doesn't happen this year, I'm completely out. However, I believe he
one more time.
I'm willing to run it back. I just bought him in a league for a late second. I believe I got him for like the 212. So, I mean, at that price, his value can only go up, and it's worth a shot. We're talking about a guy who had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 100 20 targets almost every year. And this is with the porous Lions offense. Granted, he had Matt Stafford and he's working with Daniel Jones now, but I believe in Brian Daboll coming in. You know, he worked wonders with Josh Allen, turning him into a great quarterback. So I'm willing to give it a shot, and let's see if we can turn Kenny Gallaudet into Stephon Diggs, you know?
So how old's Kenny Gallaudet now? 28?
He's 28.
Yeah, so going into prime, I mean, that's prime receiver age. A lot of times in Dynasty, we act like that's old, but Devontae Adams, 28-year-old season, Stephon Diggs, 28-year-old season. I mean, you look at those guys that put up really big numbers. I think Stephon Diggs is 28 this year, actually. So I like that. I have bought some Galladay this offseason. I also like it pre-draft because I think they're going to have to address the offensive line in the draft.
Oh, yeah. If they want any shot of Daniel Jones succeeding, they have to address the O-line.
I think they draft that, and I think address. That's a new word, I think.
Hey.
And some defense because they're so cap stricken.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that buy, especially at the price you're talking about. I think I bought them for a third this offseason.
Yeah, and how could you not take a shot on that? You know, we're talking high end wide receiver or mid to high end wide receiver too, and he's 6'4", 218. This guy's an alpha if he can stay healthy. So I'll pay anything 208, 207.
What's your top price?
Yeah, I don't think I could do like 205 is kind of my cutoff.
Okay.
Even that's kind of pushing it. So 2.7 and back, I'm more than willing to pay the price.
So you're looking around that place in a mock draft, just to play devil's advocate for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at Sky Moore probably don't fall there.
No.
John Mechie or Brian Robinson, Zamir White. That's kind of that range. I think you like Galladay over all those guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, team dependent. If you get some value that falls to you in the later rounds, but yeah, right now I'm more than willing to take the shot on the number one wide receiver on that offense. We'll see how Saquon comes back. I mean, that can only benefit him. So yeah, it's worth to take a shot. I believe in Brian Daboll so much to get that Giants offense at least competent. I'm not talking wide receiver one or number one offense in the league, but get him out of that dead zone.
The thing with that is, though, like that's not out of his range of outcomes. I say this phrase all the time, range of outcomes. And I know that's a broad term, but Kenny Galladay has finished a season as a wide receiver one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
We look at another guy like Juju in Kansas City. He has finished a season as a wide receiver one. And the chances of guys repeating wide receiver one seasons is actually really high if you go in and look at the numbers and the metrics on that. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's out of a realm of possibility. Like, it's not going to just flabbergast me. It's not a Cordell Patterson situation.
Right.
If Galladay has a wide receiver one season is what I'm getting. All right. So I'm there with you, and you're not paying a ton for that chance.
Not at all. Strictly a dart throw. Absolutely worth it.
You want me to do my second buy, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'm done. I don't want to ramble on.
Are we going to sales and then coming back to buys, or are we just knocking out the buys first?
Let's just knock out the buys first.
Okay. So here's a guy that is not as expensive as Antonio Gibson, especially if you're trying to get him from me. But a guy that I think is a buy nonetheless. Wide receiver. Oh man, I'm going to look it up now because I do not want to be wrong on this. I want to say I saw him at wide receiver 42.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know who I'm about to say, so that number shocks you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to look at this just really quickly. I'll ramble while I'm looking because I know it's not going to take me that long. But let me find him here because he's right underneath Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's see. Come on. Yeah, somewhere in that range. Michael Thomas is the guy I'm going to talk about. I want to say he's 42, but I don't. Okay.
For anybody out there, you can buy Michael Thomas from me.
I can buy. Okay, so he is wide receiver 41. It's changed because I'm looking at keep trade cut, so it fluctuates. Wide receiver 41 or 42. He is just behind guys like Allen Robinson, Hunter Renfrow, just ahead of guys like Michael Gallup and George Pickens. So here's my argument. He is a buy if you're a contender. And the reason being is his value right now is a mid-second round pick. I think you can package a player with upside, like a guy that I'm not super high on in Gabriel Davis. You might be able to package Gabriel Davis with a late third and get Michael Thomas.
You might be able to get Michael Thomas for Gabe Davis straight up.
And very, very strong outcome there that could happen. And I guess here's my thing. Michael Thomas, we're so quick to move on from guys, especially after they've had an injury. But Michael Thomas is a guy that had one injury that tried to play through it and then tried to come back too soon and re-aggravated the same injury. And there might have been some bad blood with champagne. I'm just throwing it out there. He's 29 years, just turned 29 like a week ago. So when you go to trade for him, you can also say, oh man, he's a 29-year-old receiver. But again, he literally just turned 29. And the last time we saw this guy on a football field, he wasn't a wide receiver one. He was the wide receiver one. And when you're talking about guys I want to trade for before the draft, the Saints and every mock you look at, because they have 2 firsts, are mocked to draft a receiver. I'm not sure that's the case. I was listening to a Peter King podcast who I really like Peter King and respect his work. And he mentioned how he doesn't think everybody says that they got that trade for that extra first. They moved a first next year because they want to trade up and get a quarterback. He said, knowing what he knows, he doesn't believe that to be the case because they think they're the best team in that division. They beat the Bucs in the regular season. They've got to the precipice. They liked how Jameis Winston looked. And again, you can say this is crazy, but it only thing that matters is what's inside that building. And if they feel that way, they got 2 first-round picks to draft guys that are going to help them this year. And I think you could see them going with a defensive head coach, adding some defensive pieces. I think they missed Jackrabbit Jenkins last year when he signed with the Titans. I think they could add more. And a guy like McDuffie could be there in the middle of the first round for them to draft. They could go for another edge rusher because the experiment that they drafted a few years ago has not worked out. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He was an athletic freak. I think they could also address the offensive line. I think they're going to be in that prime spot for a guy like Trey McBride at tight end as well. And
I do love me some Trey McBride.
Troutman fans will hate me on saying that. But I think there's so many other things they could address besides wide receiver. And if Michael Thomas comes back with a guy like Marquez Callaway helping out, I think they're going to be fine at that position. So if that happens, you're getting Michael Thomas as a wide receiver one, back healthy. Worst case scenario, they draft a rookie quarterback, like what's kind of predicted. And what is a bigger safety blanket than a guy that can get open 10 yards easy?
Whenever he pleases.
Whenever he wants. And tell me if you're a contender that you can buy him for as cheap as you can buy him right now. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, for a guy whose ceiling is a wide receiver one, realistically. His floor is a little bit lower. What was that?
So the real question is, have I changed your mind now?
If I'm a contender, you have. I'll take a shot on Michael Thomas if I'm a contender. I'll give up early second and why not test the waters, take that shot and see if I can get a wide receiver one, wide receiver 2 seasons out of him.
And I guess my other standpoint behind that is, if you are a rebuilding team, why sell him at that price when you can get into the first few weeks of the season?
Yeah, it does nothing for you.
Yep. So anyways, that's my pitch on that one.
Okay, I like it. I'll go into my next buy. So I go back and forth on who I wanted to do more. I'm just gonna run with it. So I got Elijah Moore as my buy.
Okay.
So I know you were talking to me earlier. You said you had him as a sell, which is completely fine. I can see it going both ways.
I thought you said Elijah Mitchell earlier.
Oh, Elijah Mitchell. I'm sorry.
So are you buying Moore or Mitchell?
I'm buying Mitchell. I'm buying Mitchell.
Okay. Sorry.
I've had a lot of debates about Elijah Moore lately, so it's still circulating in my head.
Gotcha.
But so we're talking about a guy who had 200 attempts last year, almost hit 1,000 yards, and he's due to receive more work. And we're talking potentially a top 10 season from this guy that you're getting in the 5th, 6th round. I don't think there needs to be a strong case to be made for Elijah Moore, especially if Debo's going out.
Mitchell.
So, damn, they were doing I don't think there needs to be a strong case for Mitchell, especially if Debo's getting out. This guy's going to be a workhorse, regardless of if the Niners draft a late running back or not. There's always the unknown with Kyle Shanahan and his running backs. But I think as long as he's healthy, Elijah Mitchell is going to be the guy. And I think he's going to put up a RB1 season this year. And you can get him for, I don't even think you need to pay an early first. I think you can get him for a mid first. And that's about my cutoff. I think I'd be willing to pay the 104 for him.
Okay.
I traded for him in the Dynasty Recall Orphans League. I traded Saquon Barkley I traded Saquon Barkley for Elijah Mitchell and Jalen Tolbert. And Twitter had me down bad in that trade, and Twitter was coming at my throat, man. But I'm more than happy. I stand by it. And, we'll see how the season goes. But yeah, I don't want to dig too much into Elijah Mitchell, but definitely a buy for me.
Oh, we're not moving off Elijah Mitchell just yet, because my first sale is Elijah Mitchell.
Why you gotta make me look bad, man?
I'm not. I promise. I don't have a ton of stats to back it up or anything. We're pretty much gonna argue the opposite sides of the same coin. Okay. So for me, I will say this: I don't think it's like your standpoint and how you view it. I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities. But for me, just like a New England running back, a San Francisco running back has a ton of value, but also has a very low floor. It's a volatile dynasty asset. And whether you are a rebuilding team or whether you are a contending team, dynasty or volatile assets are not going to help you, because you're either going to buy at the wrong time or sell at the wrong time. And the likelihood of one of those two outcomes happening are higher when you get a piece like that. I do find it interesting, though, you traded him in a Saquon Barkley trade, which I also think is a volatile asset just because of the injury history. So I'm not going to harp on that trade necessarily. I don't hate it. I think Jalen Tolbert is being slept on in this rookie draft.
Oh, I can't wait to have him in every roster, every league. He's going in like the third, like 307. I've seen multiple mocks going with him going 307. I'm all for it.
He's going to land in a good spot. A lot of people don't realize, not to get too rabbit trail-y here, but Jalen Tolbert had offers from Alabama, almost any SEC school or big Division I school you can think of, and came back to South Alabama to play for his senior season. That coaching staff did a really good job of recruiting in-house and keeping him because he was set to transfer. I think if he did, he's probably a higher draft pick. You look at a guy like Jameson Williams, who was nobody to anybody before this season and transferred out of Ohio State to Alabama. But Tolbert, I'm there with you. Okay, I'll say that. But the reason I'm a sell for Elijah Mitchell, so we're talking about draft, right? And I think my argument is more so if you are thinking about selling Elijah Mitchell, if that's in your realm of possibilities, if you're not just in love with him, then you sell him now. Here's the reason. We talk about we want to sell high and buy low, right? Sell high, buy low. So where is there a better time to sell high than when Debo is wanting to trade out, which everybody thinks, and I do think that would increase the workload for Mitchell. Realistically, that's an easy thing to argue, right? Easy thing to sell.
Right.
Before the draft, because here's the thing. If you're a guy like oh man, if you're a guy like, I'm trying to think of just a Najee Harris, or if you're a guy like, one of the top, just give me who's one of your top running backs in fantasy?
Let's go J.K. Dobbins and
Swift.
DeAndre Swift. Yeah.
You can stay with that whole draft class. What a class. Anyways, if you're one of those guys and the team drafts a running back in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, nobody bats an eye at it. They think, oh, I got a handcuff, I'll grab him. But if you are the starting running back for the 49ers and the running back is drafted in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, I can now argue to you when you try to sell me Mitchell that this guy's got a chance. I like him. If a guy like Zamir White were to fall to the 5th round and the 49ers were to take him, he was a 5-star recruit. Georgia doesn't run a lot of their backs. You can argue that. And I think when you get into that territory, Mitchell's value can do nothing but drop post-draft. So quick technical there, but as I was saying, I think if Debo gets re-signed after the draft, which probably is what happened, and he can argue and say all he wants, here's a big thing that people aren't taking into consideration with those receivers, and I'll say it from let me finish my thought here. The receivers that are saying that they're going to hold out or get traded, right? A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Debo, and I know A.J. and DK ain't saying that yet, right? Terry McLaurin, all the guys in that class. Here's something people aren't taking into consideration. Yes, Devontae Adams got traded. Yes, Tyreek Hill got traded. What do those two guys have that the other guys we just talked about don't? They had a second contract. They had got paid big money. Debo, was Debo second or third round pick in the NFL draft?
I believe he was second.
Okay. A.J. Brown was a second round pick. DK Metcalf was a second round pick. Look at contracts for second round picks compared to contracts of first round picks, or compared to any of the second contracts that Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill had. A.J. Brown, Debo, whoever, those guys can say that, oh, we'll just sit out. The big picture is if they want to continue living the lifestyle that they're living right now, they can't afford to sit out. They just can't. Right. There was an article that came out. If Debo were to sit out all season, right, and force a hand, he would owe the 49ers money by the end of the season.
I like it.
Think about that. They're also going into the 4th year of their deal, which they are set to make more money. You can go on Spot Rack and look this up and fact check me if you want to. Get all in the comments, all that good stuff. It's true. They are set to make more money in year 4 of their contract than they have the first 3 years of it combined. And just take that into consideration as well. So there's a lot riding on this year for him. Yes, $4 million this year is a big difference than $24 million or $20 million that they're hoping to get. But it's still 3 years of work. If your job came to you and said, hey, we're going to pay you, you know what you made the last 3 years, we're going to bind that and you're going to make that all this year.
Hey, I'll play.
Or you can try to sit out and hope and pray somebody comes and offers you 3 times that.
I just don't see it happening. Not with his not wanting to play that hybrid role so much. You know, that's where the bulk of his, I wouldn't say the bulk, but that's where they were able to extract the most production out of him, is through that hybrid role, getting touches out the backfield. And I don't blame him for not wanting to play that role. I don't want to get down a rabbit hole on Debo because
we've done it's already happened. We're there, man. We are in the hole.
Yeah, you're right. You might as well finish. Yeah, I understand him not wanting to play that because it shortens your career. But at the end of the day, while you're under that rookie contract, if you want to get paid, you got to continue doing, what makes you worth that value, which is that role.
Yeah, and we don't even know, right, if that really came from him or not. I could see if he comes back this year not wanting to do the hybrid role because, you're playing pretty much on a contract year. So I could understand that completely. But again, so this is about Elijah Mitchell, but we've been talking about it. It's all correlating to
I think Debo is the biggest domino for Elijah Mitchell.
It is.
A lot of people want to harp on Trey Lance and his sniping of red zone touchdowns possibly. Yep. I don't think it's going to be a big deal as far as Elijah Mitchell's production. So it's not really something I'm sweating, but Debo is a big deal. So we'll see how that plays out.
My main point as why I think Elijah Mitchell is a sell is because I think his value is higher right now than it's been at any point. And I think that can drop after the draft. So if we're talking sell based on how the draft can affect values, Elijah Mitchell's a sell for me. But I understand why you want him on your team.
I'm with you. If you are not planning to keep Elijah Mitchell on your team,
There you go.
I would sell. Yeah, I would sell. But if you do want to keep him on your team for this season, I'm buying.
Okay.
But I wouldn't even be mad if you waited till after the draft to buy.
Do you think you're buying at a higher value right now because of the Debo news? I don't know when your trade was.
No, it was before the Debo news broke. Yeah, I've been a big sell Debo guy for a little bit. But yeah, I've been super high on Elijah Mitchell. I've been calling top 10 running back season.
So do you think you got Mitchell cheaper though because it was before the Debo news? Like, are you saying you'd buy him now even after the Debo news?
No, I think that his price is still fairly the same.
Okay.
I think Saquon for Elijah Mitchell straight up is, I'd say it's a good trade.
Yeah, getting a ton younger.
Yeah.
So I get it. All right. So sale time. It is your turn. Who is your first sale?
All right, let's get into this. This is hard for me. This is really, really hard for me because I'm a Rams fan and we're just coming off Super Bowl. But my allegiance lies to my Dynasty team. So I'm selling Cam Akers, guys. Cam Akers is being drafted way too high. I believe he's got a sleeper ADP of 45. That puts him in the end of the third round, or the end of the fourth round. I'm sorry. So it puts him at the end of the fourth round. And really, who else are you looking at? You're looking at Saquon. I'll take Saquon over Cam. You're looking at Nick Chubb. I'll take Chubb over Cam. You're looking at Derrick Henry in that ranges. I'll take Henry. I'm taking JK. I'm taking all the young running backs because when he came back, Cam Akers just did not look good at all. You look at it, his production in the playoffs. He had 67 carries for only 172 yards. And I know he's going to come back and he might do a little bit better. But the Rams have visits from running backs. So I can see them using one of their picks on him to spell Cam Akers a little bit, take some of that pressure off, because Cam Akers he did not look explosive anymore. He still get the passing down work. I can see that happening, but I'll be shocked if Cam Akers finishes in top 15. Anything under 15, I'm not going to be shocked about as far as running backs go. So for that reason, I'm selling Cam Akers. And I think you can get max value now before the Rams draft a running back.
No argument from me. I don't know that the draft strongly affects them, but I think it absolutely could. And I think if you watch that team last year, if they do draft a running back in the 5th or 6th round, which is a possibility. I mean, they drafted Jake Funk in the 6th round last year, and there was people that liked Jake Funk last year.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a whole phase that happened. Don't believe me, be there. So I agree with you. I do think even if Akers, best case scenario, he's back to 100%. I think that they like the format they ran with last year. By committee, it worked for them.
Daryl Henderson, Sony Michel. I need to look. Is Sony Michel under contract?
We were talking about that before. I don't know if he is or not. I think he is because I haven't heard about him signing anywhere else.
Yeah, I think he might be under contract as well. I'll check on after this. But
yeah,
the running back by committee, the emergence of the passing game. I mean, the passing game's always been heavy for Sean McVay, but I think we saw the reliance on it and just how big a part of that offensive scheme passing is going to be.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, you look at that, and Allen Robinson's going to have 10 touchdowns next year too. So there's that. I'm trying to talk that into existence. Leave me alone.
I wouldn't be shocked if Robinson and Kupp both passed, more than 1,200 yards apiece.
No, it wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me at all. All right, so my last sale here, we're gonna get a little spicy. Okay, just a little spicy take. I could tell you to sell guys like Corey Davis. I could tell you to sell these bottom feeder guys, but that's not what I'm here for. Okay, I'm here for the hot takes. I'm here for the tell me stuff that other people will not tell me, Evan.
I love me some hot takes. What you got?
Sell Austin Eckler before the draft.
Oh man.
I'm gonna hurt some hearts here.
You talking about the RB2 last year? That Austin Eckler?
The RB2 last year. I'm talking about the injury prone 26, soon to be 27-year-old Austin Eckler. Normally, when a running back turns 25 or 26, I mean, what are you hearing about Ezekiel Elliott right now? Sell him, move him, get rid of him. Everybody's like selling the farm on him, right? So why are we not keeping that same energy with Eckler just because he had a good season last year when really people have been hammering Austin Eckler for the last 3 years? Mm-hmm. He's been in redraft, he's been a first-round pick the last 3 years, right at the turn every year. If not a first round, right at the turn of the first or the second. And he's really only gave you that value back this year. He was like an RB 15 or 16 two years ago, or 3 years ago. The year before last year, he got hurt. Mm-hmm. So they've already talked about lightening his workload. They're a young team. It don't make any sense for them to continue to pay him at top value. A rookie running back is 100% in their realm of possibilities in their draft picks. They have all picks in every round. I think they can take a guy in the third, fourth, or fifth round to spell Eckler. They have guys like Justin Jackson who I think can be serviceable if they need them to be. I think Eckler, if you can sell him at RB5 or better value, do it and do it now. Because you're not going to get that after the draft, and you're not going to get that again until he shows he can be that 3 weeks into the season.
Okay. So let's say you have Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If I offer you 106 and 208, you taking it?
So a roster construction does come into play only because you have to replace that, right? And I think Austin Eckler probably finishes as an RB2 next year, maybe lower. He has a high injury rate just because of his size, right? So if I'm getting you said 106, right? 106.
Yep.
106 and 208. I think I can get Rashad White at 106. A little spicy there. A lot of people have him falling a little bit. I like Rashad White. I probably take that deal, but I don't think you have to take that because I think you can get more. I mean, to be honest, so we were talking about Gibson earlier, and who has more value right now in the trade market, Gibson or Eckler? I'd say most people think Eckler do.
Yeah. I think people are expecting that top 5 finish again next year for Eckler.
So if I can get 103 and anything smaller, a throw in for Eckler, I love that. Like pounding accept. Because at 103, I really feel I'm going to get Walker or Breece Hall. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's debates there, even which one of those guys are going to be RB1. I have mine, but that's just me. But I still like both of those guys, and I'm getting younger at the position. And a rookie running back, there's always been a rookie running back for the last 5 years, there's been a rookie running back end up in the top 5 running backs. So one of those guys is bound to hit, or at least be serviceable, or at least be able to be flipped because there's going to be some guy that fell in love with him that wants him so bad. So I think those guys have more value after the draft. I think Breece Hall has more value after the draft than Eckler will have, if we're talking from a draft standpoint. So again, I could see the reason why you want to hold on to Eckler, but the smart move from a dynasty perspective is to sell him and sell him now. And if you can get a first, if you tell me I'll give you 106 and a first in 23, I'll pound accept. I'll do that because I like the 23 draft.
Oh, but, yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, I'm sending out, if I have Eckler, actually, I do have Eckler in the league. I'll send him out for the 101 just to see what happens. I don't think it'll go through, but I'll let you know about that.
I mean, and if you have him, if it's in that league and the guy at 101 has a great stable of running backs, and wants to get his top receiver, whichever guy gets drafted to Green Bay that he's hoping, then you might even be able to swing it for 102.
Who has the 101 in this league? This is one of my
Still,
first leagues.
live trade.
Live trade. I'm sending it.
All right. So who is your last sale?
My last sell is gonna be I'm going with Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Kansas City is looking to add another receiver. I think they paid Valdez-Scantling a solid amount of money while Juju's only on the 1-year contract. So I feel confident that MBS is going to get a solid amount of work in that offense, as well as the number 1 wide receiver they draft, whether it be the first. I don't think it's going to be the splash. I don't think they're going to get the wide receiver they want to get into the end of the first round. But in the second round, I can see them grabbing somebody and making him a featured part of that offense. Juju's value is high right now. You can probably sell him for 108. I think you can get a 108 done. You might have to throw in, a third or something, just a little throw in. But I feel good about that one.
So what's interesting about that is if you can get the 108, you're probably in that realm of George Pickens, Sky Moore, maybe Jameson Williams, maybe depending on your league. If we're talking 1 quarterback, right? So that is interesting because those are also the same guys, excluding Jameson Williams, that are probably going to be around that pick for the Chiefs, right? You're probably looking at if the Chiefs draft a receiver, have to be at 29 or 30, unless they trade up, which I don't know if they will or not. But
I don't see it. They need some value, and they need to address a couple of different things on that team.
Paying your quarterback that much, first round picks late in the first round, and that contract are pretty nice. So you might take that. But you're looking at guys like Sky Moore, like George Pickens later in the first round. I think Christian Watson's going to be a guy that shocks everybody and goes top 20. I think he gets drafted. Wow. Just watch the tea leaves, man. I do. Drafted earlier than people are thinking. So if that stuff were to happen, it's interesting you say that because you're essentially at that point you're swapping Juju, right, for one of those 2 rookies, and then it probably depends how you feel about those 2 rookies. So I'm not going to disagree with you, but as a Juju holder in this situation, I will say this: I've heard the comment of they gave Juju a 1-year deal, they gave MVS. They would have given Juju a 3-year deal.
You think he wanted that prove it deal to go somewhere else?
Well, that's the same thing he did last year. So I think Juju should fire his agent. That's the first thing I think, because I think Juju held out last year thinking he was going to get a bigger deal and didn't. And then he did the same thing this year. And you saw guys like Christian Kirk. You mean to tell me the Jags wouldn't have gave Juju that same deal? It's hard for me to believe that. Right. I just – the production he's put up, and he's younger. I mean, Juju's still 24, 25 years old. I think 24 actually, which is mind-boggling. I think that Juju wanted a prove-it deal because I think he wants to capitalize next year. So I could see either way for it. I just, in my heart of hearts, I don't see MVS is not getting a quarterback upgrade. Maybe a small one, but he's not getting – is he getting a situation upgrade? Probably not, because you don't have somebody like Devontae Adams pulling coverage.
Right.
So when you look at it from that perspective, I don't think I'm very low on MVS, so I guess that's probably where this is coming from. But when you look at it from that perspective, I think Juju has the clearest shot there. If they draft a receiver, I'm there with you. His value does drop, so it doesn't make sense to trade him before the draft if you're going to trade him. But I'm probably holding personally. But I could be the one sitting with egg on my face after the draft.
I mean,
you have to hold him.
Holding Juju isn't a bad idea either. I mean, the guy's like, what, 24, 25?
Yeah.
Been in the league for a decade almost.
He's been a wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 2.
So I'm not going to be mad holding Juju. Personally, I don't think he's going to have the production to hold that starting spot on my roster that he kind of commands with his value.
It's almost crazy. Here's one thing that really leans your side. Think about this. If you had Juju middle of last year, did you ever think you would end up getting offered a first round pick for him, even a late first at that point last year?
No, I didn't.
Probably not. So you probably are selling at the right time, and I'm probably an idiot.
Would you? All right. Brandon Cooks or Juju? That's a good one, huh?
If I'm a contending team, I think Cooks has more immediate value.
Mm-hmm.
And Cooks is a buy in every league you're in. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think there's not a lot of people that still hold value in him.
Brandon Cooks will never not be a buy for me. That's why I didn't put him on. I will buy him every year until he retires. Did you already knock out your second?
My second set, yeah. You were the last. You wrapped it up.
Oh man. Okay. Let's do 1 and 1 off top of the head. You don't have to explain it. Just who you buying? One more.
Well, I had a superlative of Juju written down, so I will not include him. Oh man. I'm buying Rondale Moore if I can get him cheap enough. I like Rondale Moore's upside. I don't think they continue to add to receiver. Personally, I think they signed the veteran and they're good to go. So if I can buy Rondale Moore, that's what I'm buying.
I like it. A lot of people think they're going to draft a receiver. You're leaning the other way. You got a lot of knowledge, so I'm leaning with you on this one. For me, I'm going Stefan Diggs. His value is extremely low right now. He's going in like the 4th and 5th of startups. He just keeps dropping. It's ridiculous, and I'm all for it. I'll give away a 23 first for Diggs and a throw-in. I'm working Amon-Ra St. Brown and a 23 first for Diggs right now.
Mid-season last year, you would have had to pay 2 first plus for Diggs. So I think you're dead on it.
Yeah, he's gonna blow up this year. I'm excited. Thank you for coming by. Thanks for being the first guest of the Dynasty Recall podcast. Couldn't be happier, guys. Evan from FF6, appreciate you coming, man.
Appreciate it, man. Look forward, and I'll be sure to share this. And we're going to get our podcast up and going again here soon, and I'm sure I'll have you on very soon.
Yeah, man. Just shoot me the message. I'm more than happy to come by. I'll be excited. You and Ian do great work over there.
Appreciate it, man.
All right. That is it for today, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Much love. I will see you next time. Peace.